Final match of the November tests, folks, sees a depleted Wales taking on a depleted South Africa. There's been a little bit of questioning about the scheduling of this test, although I just heard Rusty say in his press conference that it was scheduled years and years in advance under previous management, I think, of the WRU and whatnot. So, yeah, we're missing a lot of players. Wales, you feel like, don't have the same depth that South Africa's going to have, so them being without the likes of Rhys, Max Llewell and Duffy Jenkins, Thomas Williams, Jack Morgan's injured, is probably going to affect them more than the Boks, but the Boks have gone with a 7-1 split, and Rusty said, you didn't really plan to do that, but it's just the personality's gone available, and if any guys kind of go down before the match starts, they could even have to get Feinberg-Mngomezulu to suit up and play a return to kind of test match rugby. So that would be, I wouldn't be complaining if I saw Dwayne get back into action. I'm sure he's still in pretty good shape. But we'll go through the squads pretty quick. Some of the stats, predictions. You guys can let us know your thoughts on how this one is going to go. Are you excited for it? Are you kind of dreading it to see how it will go? Fingers crossed the Welsh can give a good account of themselves, because it wasn't that long ago that it felt like Wales and South Africa always had kind of cracking arm wrestle matches. I mean, Rusty's first game as charge of the Boks was that Washington game against Warren Gatland's Bok. I think it was a pretty ugly one. Warren Gatland's Wales side, pretty ugly one. But yeah, all their games seem to be a bit of an arm wrestle. For Wales, like I mentioned, they've had to make a bunch of changes. Assiratti and Dewi continue on the front row, and Gareth Thomas is up from the bench. So that's at least a bit of stability. That's going to be an area after last week that Wales need to be very high performing. So we'll see how these guys can hold up. But like Rusty said in the pre-match press conference, you don't know when scrums are going to come. You can't really plan a match on just dominating a team up front when he was asked about it. So you feel like the Welsh props will probably be hoping there's not too much drop ball and forward passes and whatnot. But the Boks have had to make a few changes to their front rowers as well, particularly on the bench. Ben Carter and Rhys Davies, that's an all-new second row for Wales, and then they've had to shift around the back row with Aaron Wainwright being back. That's good news, because remember he was a late scratching from that game last week against the All Blacks. Mann, who's not the biggest flanker, but he made 21 tackles and won some line-up ball against the AB. Certainly got to watch out for. And Taine Plumtree needs to get the discipline right. 3 penalties coughed up last weekend, a yellow card. Kieran Hardy gets started at 9. No Thomas Williams. Dan Edwards another crack at 10. Joe Hawkins and Joe Roberts is a double Joe. Midfield, I thought Joe Hawkins actually looked all right last week. Did he miss a few tackles? But either way, he was looking all right, ball in hand, confident. And then all new wings with Ellis, me and Dyer having to come in for the injured Tom Rogers, who got that hat trick. Remember, he was only in the side because Josh Adams got a ban and Rhys back to his club. So it's much changed on the wings for Wales. And then Blair Murray beat 3 defenders last week from fullback. He's nippy. He's dangerous, but he's not the biggest guy. If you pepper him with high balls, you feel like that is going to be certainly a chink in the armor. Coghlan got a debut last week. He continues on. There's a potential debut for prop Danny Southgate, the Welsh, or the Cardiff man. He's 26 years old, so heck of a way to get your debut up against the Boks. Fingers crossed he goes well. Chris Coleman's there as well. James Ratti, Morgan Morse. All these guys are into the squad. Reuben, Morgan Williams, Callum, Sheedy. Been a while since we've seen him in Welsh colours. Hopefully it doesn't come down to goal kicking, because I don't know that I would want my mortgage on Callum Sheedy kicking a goal, and then Ben Thomas a bit of a utility there. So 5-3 split for the Welsh. Steve Tandy did say in his pre-match that he was, happy to see the kind of effort and performance from the boys, and they started to show a bit of attacking intent, especially when the crowd was getting behind them. And he's right. We'll get to some of those stats in a second. For the Boks, they've promoted all their bench front rowers to the starting roles. So Steenekamp, Grobelaar and Lowe get a chance to go to town on the Welsh pack this week, but it's a different thing being from the bench than starting. But they play pretty decently long minutes. I think they came off the bench before halftime last week, so they'll be keen to get stuck in. John Klein hasn't had many matches for the Boks, as Rusty mentioned, so it's good for him to earn another cap. And then Ruan Nokia must be getting knackered, because he's had a lot of games, and he was first equal in tackles against Ireland last week for South Africa with 13. So he's been Mr. Consistent. Kolisi, likewise, has played a lot of games. He's still there. And captain's the side at 6. Mostert, who missed out last week despite not being banned, but Rossi didn't want to kind of gamble the preparations on a guy who might end up getting suspended before that red card got rescinded. So he gets another crack in the number 7 jersey. And Visa, who was hugely busy on the ball carry last week, busting tackles as well, continues on at number 8. Van der Berg gets a crack at 9. So Reinach, who's in his 50th, doesn't get to start. But as Rossi said, this is a kind of team priority thing, I guess, because Achia Sneeman did it last week. There's a little bit of a precedent for it. And Reinach is the only back on the bench, like specialist back. You have got Coghlan there who could be a back in a pinch, and you've got a starting guy in Andre Esterhuizen who could be a forward. So it's getting harder to define those specialist roles, but Corbus, I guess, could cover the wing if needs be as well. So Van der Berg gets a crack starting. Reinach in his 50th rides the pine. Team move. Sasha is still there at 10. He's still getting through heaps of run meters. Like, he's a real flash running 10. I love watching him play, although I will admit there's a little bit of the microscope being put on his goal kicking in recent times. It's not mattered in recent times because the games for the Boks haven't been close. But if there comes a game where the Boks lose it and they've missed some kicks, I don't think this is going to be that game. But you know what I mean? Like, the All Blacks had this problem for years when they had a cracking team that usually didn't need to worry about goal kicks. But yeah, there is just that little bit of microscope being put on his game because the guy does so many things so well. But the goal kicking numbers in recent weeks have not been fantastic. Andre Esterhuizen there at 12 this week, so he's back to being a back alongside Allende is there at 13. Ethan Hooker gets another crack. Great to see him there. Left wing is Moody this week, so he switches wings. And then Willemse, who's likewise gotten a bit of game time recently. Love seeing that guy offload and get involved. He is there at 15. Bench-wise, Mbonambi, haven't seen him for a while. Porthin is back in, and then Intalabakanye is there as well. I'll be keen to see what kind of minutes these guys get. Fingers crossed it's a fair few. Eben drops to the bench. Van Staden is there. Ben Jason Dixon, I was kind of hoping he would get a start because he didn't get many minutes. Was it the Mostert red card game? I think it must have been. He's not had that many opportunities, Ben Jason Dixon, and when he finally got one, he had to be kind of sacrificed early as they rejigged with the red card. But hopefully he gets some good game time, and then Quacka Smith can also cover the back line, I guess, if needs be, but is there in the 22 jumper. Rossi did talk about knowing the Welsh psyche and how they wouldn't be taking the game lightly from a South African perspective, and he said the kind of focus won't be a problem. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to see how they round out the year. Stats-wise, I mentioned Tandy talking about the attacking intent of his team. The last couple of games, the attacking numbers have been a bit better. The run meters per carry numbers are up closer to 4, which is the standard you want to be at. 8 line breaks versus New Zealand. That's very pleasing. They conceded a few as well. Obviously shipped 50 points in that game, but they're getting the attacking intent right. Line out, I think, has been 100% for the last 4 games. But they are still living kind of off scraps in terms of the possession and territory numbers. So that'll probably be true against South Africa as well. You're going to need to take every opportunity you can get. I think a lot of Welsh fans were relatively happy last week, even though they got 50 points put on them with the ABs. They did score some tries. They put more points on the All Blacks than they did against Japan. So that was at least like a positive. I think that's what you'd love to see from a Welsh perspective. For South Africa, they dominate the position. They dominate the territory, barring that game against like France where they had the early red. It's harder to keep the ball when you're a man down, but still won the game, obviously. They scored a bunch of tries. Turnovers conceded number is still high. Like, I would like at the end of the season totally to do like a breakdown of all the teams to see like where are they strong and where are they weak. This is like the one area where South Africa's numbers are really high. So much coughed up ball. And that's partly because you have more ball. If you've got more possession, you're going to have more turnovers conceded just naturally. But when they've got it right and it's clicked, it's been scary. Like, that's when they really open teams up. When they don't drop the ball. When it clicks, it really, really clicks. And plus, tackle percentage, like, it's not just about the sexy stuff, has been close to 90% in the last 4 games. I think like 88. So really, really hard team to break down. And then obviously the scrum was devastating last week. From a Welsh perspective, and from my perspective here, I'd like to see fewer than 20 scrums. And let's see guys like Ethan Hooker and, Kane Moody and whatnot get the ball out wide. But we will see. As Rossi said, it's kind of hard to plan how the game is going to go beforehand. Lineup percentage was 86 last week, which I think they would like to bump up a little bit higher. Recent history between the sides is pretty much all South Africa, although there is one win in the last 5 for Wales, but it is the oldest of the 5 games. 2022, that's Wayne Pivac days. remember when he was under a bit of pressure, but he got that win down in South Africa, which was a pretty famous win. It was 13-12. I seem to remember Wales had played better the week before but lost. And South Africa played a bit better this game, but Wales still managed to pull out of the fire. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the way my gut remembers that game. South Africa then bounced back in the final game of that 3-match tour to win it in Cape Town. Then there's a game at Cardiff, 52-16 in 2023. Twickenham, 41-13 in 2024. And then 45-12 last year. So, yeah, the last 3 results have kind of been big old blowouts for South Africa. It feels like that kind of arm wrestle relationship has changed because Welsh rugby is not as highly ranked as it used to be. That is just a state of affairs, and South African rugby has gone in the other direction. Predictions-wise, the Boks are predicted to win by 40, according to the bookies. 40 points. The rugby forecast algorithm is a little bit more conservative, saying 32. But still massive favourites. It's on Saturday, Sunday morning for me here in NZ, Cardiff, Principality Stadium. 3:10 local, which I think is like 5:10 for you guys in South Africa, so perfect timing for you. That's like 4:10 in the morning for me in New Zealand, but I'll still get up and watch it. It's the last test match of the year, so it's going to be massive. Luke Ramos, the Frenchman, is the ref. You guys let me know your thoughts on how it's going to go. Just on a personal note, this is going to be a pretty hard one. Or a weird one for me, because as I mentioned the other day, my dad passed away a couple of days ago, and this is like the first match where I'm not getting a message from him saying, oh man, who's this young kid, you know, getting his debut for Wales, this prop, or, you know, where are all the South African guys? I think they might go well. I think the Welsh might do better than they predicted, or, you know, I'm not going to get that from my dad, and it's a weird feeling, because before match weekends, he would always be sending me messages. He'd tell me, oh, I watched your video, and I reckon this, I reckon that, how he thought things were going to go. And then, you know, we'd have a chat about it. Today's Friday, here as I record this. So Friday is the day he would usually come over for dinner. We would, you know, he'd read books with the kids and watch some TV with them. And yeah, chat some rugby with me about how he thought the game was going to go and whatnot. So I really miss that. I really miss it a lot already. He's only been gone a few days. But I'm already missing it. I'm going to have to get used to it. But thank you guys so much. There's been a heap, thousands of lovely comments on my video from yesterday where I mentioned to everyone that he has passed away. So thank you guys so much for that. It means, it's heaps. It's just massive support. So thank you guys for that. Let us know your thoughts on this. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.